So, as we observe life, we realize that things aren't, you know, poofing up. Things aren't magic. Things aren't things aren't always how we want them to be even. So when you talk about mental health and emotional well-being, you're talking about your soul. So the soul operates within a realm of things just like your body operates within a realm of things. In physics, there's the laws. Like, gravity is a law of physics. So on and so forth, or at least that is it, right? Basically, your body has rules that it's going to follow. Where you move your body, there's going to be forces that move it, and there's going to be things that get in the way. So if you walk into a wall, the wall's probably going to stop you, right? Unless you're stronger than it, then you can move the wall. If you drop something, it's going to fall. So on and so forth. So the body has a bunch of rules that it has to be following. The soul also does. If a body is injured, it's not like you can just snap its fingers and all of a sudden be not injured, right? If the soul is injured, which is like a state of anxiety, depression, it's not like it could just, you could just snap your fingers or think something a thought, and bam, suddenly the soul is not depressed. So what I'm saying is there's rules, there's laws, there's dynamics, there's physics to it. And metaphysics if for the soul, but physics for the body. So whenever a person does something that's bad for them, that's bad for the soul, then there's consequences, there's suffering for the soul. If a person does bad things for the body, same thing, there's problems that affect the body. That's why people who have anxiety and depression or other complicated mental suffering, you could say, they're not able to just snap out of it. They're more able to only persevere through it until they're healed. But you gotta ask what caused the damage or the injury in the first place. And the answer was clearly an injury. It was an injury of the soul, which is again for the third time or the second time. That's why people don't just snap their fingers and come out of the spiritual situation, because it is a spiritual thing. It's not emotional, it's not mental. It's a real spiritual thing. Metaphysical. So just like the body needs to be watched out for and taken care of, so does the soul. The soul must be guarded and protected and treated right. There's certain actions that could destroy the soul. There's certain threats to the soul as well. Physically, if you're getting jumped, then that's probably going to injure the body, right? And spiritually, if you're sinning or doing something against its own consciousness, its own conscience, then that's probably also going to do an injury, except a spiritual one. So though the body gets older and stuff changes with the body, and the soul probably gets a lot of stuff stored, stuff is forgotten, stuff is remembered, right? Because the soul is supposed to stretch to every direction infinitely. So the soul can forget something happened, and when it gets reminded, it gets hurt again by that wound. It's almost as if it's almost like not knowing you have an injury, but when you know you have an injury, you start suffering or you start worrying. Like, let's say you don't know you have cancer, but suddenly you get told that you have cancer, start worrying. It's the same thing with the uh, the wounds of the soul and how they can get reminded. But sometimes they're obvious right away. But truly, health is very important. Not only physically, but spiritual health too. In this structured world with forces and rules and laws of nature, of God, too. So it's my desire that everybody who watches this video is going to be following their path that leads towards health and a healthy mind and a healthy body, because this is the most important stuff. Nobody wants to be suffering, nobody wants to be hurt, nobody wants to be injured, because it just doesn't feel right, doesn't feel good. So for this reason, it's best to just put down the dangerous stuff, put down the sinful stuff, put down the the stuff that God doesn't want for you. Surely God wants for us all health, and that includes happiness and sanity and fulfillment and just that good overall healthy feeling of the soul, and energy too. You need to have energy, a lot of it. So he wants that for the soul, but also for the body. He wants health too. And I'm not a physical doctor, I'm not even a spiritual doctor, but I do have some recommendations I want to say to everybody. Get lots of rest, exercise a little bit, at least so you're in shape. At least so you're not obese. A lot of exercise is actually not good, so it's best to exercise just so that you're not overweight. And for the soul, also rest helps. Lots of rest, lots of time for healing, lots of persevering, not drugs, not sinning, not perversion, because those other things really do damage and harm to the soul rather than help it. The commandments are there to help the soul. Following the commandments makes life better. But breaking the commandments surely does damage to the soul.